Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a respected and successful professional and an author from USA, Drea Lynn. Drea, welcome to
Thank
the
you
show.
so much. I'm so appreciative to be able to speak with you today. So super excited.
Thank you. Drea is an author of a book titled Smart Quit, Cash In, Clock Out. So, Drea, before we come to your book, a few questions for you. You had what many people would consider a dream career, an attorney, a chief operating officer, a six-figure income. What was happening internally that made you realize success and fulfillment were no longer the same thing?
Yeah, it's so funny because I think you have to take a step backwards first because this whole idea of success and fulfillment, I almost think sometimes we run after what we think is successful based on the idea of what people will say is, hey, this was successful. So even the idea of where you're like, hey, what most people would look at and you have the dream career and the dream job. I had to ask myself, how much of that did I chase based on what a person or what people would say? Oh, she's an attorney.
Mm,
Oh, she's now, a COO. And how much really was it purpose driven of what I was supposed to do? So, really, when I started doing some internal reflection on who I was and, the purpose of what I really thought that I was supposed to bring really actually to the world, there was this conflict of what I was doing versus what I was supposed to do. And that's, when you start to get that rub, that is when you start to get that discontentment and things usually have to shift and move. And that's what ended up happening in my
mm,
life.
Very interesting. You left the corner office to build your own business and ended up in six figures of debt. What were the hardest lessons that period taught you about entrepreneurship and yourself?
Yeah. The hardest lessons. Oh gosh, too many. I have to tell you the top ones because too many to name. And hardest. I don't even know if that's the word I use. I think I would say the best because I definitely think it was the most growth that I've ever done.
Mm,
It really caused me to, I think up until that point, I had had a lot of individual success, meaning me pushing my success. It really made me have to understand collaboration, teamwork, understand definitely in the entrepreneurial world. I mean, you have to be able to really work through people and with people and have a community. Not only just because you need others to understand the plight of an entrepreneur, but really it really is all about networking and that does not mean networking even just to necessarily get your next client or get your next referral, but it really is a genuineness about getting to know people because really people help people they like and they want to see succeed. And so it's not even necessarily meeting people within mind, your business or what you can get out of them, but just a genuine connection. And that was something that I learned through my journey because I was just very driven on what do I do? How do I get it done? And I had this, man, Ash, I had in my mind driven, you know, the first month, is my first client. By month three, I don't know, it's gonna be like, bringing in six figures of revenue, and it was the exact opposite. Like, I
mm,
mean, literally, I had this, like 6 month of runway of savings that quickly got drained because not only was I, had my regular living expenses, but then I had my business expenses. It took longer than what I thought to bring in my first client, and so I had nothing coming in.
mm,
And I mean, man. Now you asked me about the lessons, but I'll tell you something else that it revealed in me, and it's something I think I knew, but it really solidified it, and it was the resilience I have,
mm,
and it really showed me that what I really thought that I had in me about I will not give up. Like, I don't care. When my back's against the wall, I am going to figure out a way, to fight against the ropes. And that's what I did. I mean, literally, I was like, I had made this choice and stepped out in this leap of faith that I was going to succeed in it.
mm,
And it's so funny because I look now at writing Smart Quit, and I would not have been able to write Smart Quit had my journey not been
Yeah.
as it was. And so there is almost this gratefulness of how I'm about to use this word, it's probably dramatic, but I'm a dramatic person. How
Mm.
traumatic my journey was,
Mm.
because out of it, it birthed this like this love for, let me share to everyone how you can do this much better than what I did. There were some things that I did great, but there were some things that I could have done better that I think I can share with you to make your journey in this a lot more enjoyable than what mine was because
Wow.
of some things that I just didn't get right.
Great response. Rhea, let's now come to your book, Smart Quit, Cash In, Clock Out. And before I ask you a question, I'll ask all my viewers and listeners to go and check out Drea Lynn's book. My
Yes.
first question for you, Drea, is the title of your book is fascinating. What is the difference between smart quit and an emotional quit?
Yeah. So I'll tell you that, and then I'll tell you there's actually a double meaning to the title of my book. So
Yeah.
the straightforward meaning, a smart quit is one that is strategic and isn't emotional.
Mm.
The idea is that you want to transition with a plan and not in panic. And a lot of people, when they transition out of a job, and sometimes it's into entrepreneurship, but sometimes you're forced to quit because or forced to shift because you're let go, and depending on what the economy is, you don't get a choice in it. Or maybe you got a different boss, or all of a sudden now your work environment isn't the same, and now you feel forced out the door. And so the idea of a smart quit, just a straightforward way, is hey, if you want something different, let's not make an emotional decision and be like, oh, I gotta leave. There is a strategy behind how do you make the best decision? How do you plan in a way where when you leave, you have set yourself up for success, where you can leave the gate running. So that's the first kind of the
Yeah.
straightforward way. The second meaning of smart quick actually goes to the tagline. So the tagline is cash in, clock out. And the second part is I really want people to quit the mentality of working, that your work is just about cashing in, getting a paycheck, and
Mm.
clocking out as soon as possible. Like if you're supposed to get off at 5 o'clock, usually people are at their car at 5 o'clock. It's like 4:55 is when you're supposed to be starting to walk through the door. But if you really get serious about what you can actually extract from your job, other than money, because I actually do not think that money is the biggest asset that you can get from your job. There are relationships, there are skills, there are resources. You can get education, you can get certification, your next client, your next partner, your investor. There's just so many resources outside of just a paycheck that is available to you wherever you are. That really is that's really the other part of when I'm saying smart quit. So
Mm.
yes, when you're transitioning, there's this strategic way, but then also it really is talking about this mindset shift of every day when you're going to work. Are you being really strategic about, yes, you have a job to do that you're getting paid for, but there is alignment with that job where you could be benefiting yourself for your future
Yeah.
if you are strategic and intentional about it. And so
Mm.
that's the second piece of
Great
that.
response. Great response. And tell me, what inspired you to write this book specifically for the break room rather than the boardroom?
Yeah, because I just really feel, and I have this, I write this thing where I said, it doesn't matter if you are a fry cook at McDonald's, you are working at $1 billion company.
Correct.
And there is something that you can extract that you could build $1 billion company. There's this piece, and I think it's at McDonald's, this little piece in the ice cream machine that only one company can replace. And I just really think you don't have to be in some corporate job or in a boardroom to be successful. And so I did not want a person to think that they were not that this book was not speaking to them if they didn't have the degree, or if they did not think in their own terms. I just don't think this applies to anybody, that they weren't of the caliber or the place where they could do it, because it's anyone can do it. And I
Mm.
really think now where we are, if, and this is once again, I'm dramatic, so this is going to be extreme, but I truly believe this. I believe the only person who's standing in the midst of anyone's success is themselves. And why I say that is you can look around you and you can find someone who has been able to become successful from any sort of beginnings. Now, it's tougher for some people. Like
Hmm.
some people do have they start with more resources. Maybe they have more connections, maybe they have more money. But you can find someone who started with nothing and they were able to make it. That means that so could you. And so, will it take sacrifice? Yes. Will it take work? Yes. Like I said, will it take resilience and determination? Will it take hearing 1,000 no's? Yes, but you can do it. And so that's why I was like, you know what, in corporate America, I think there is this, you kind of come with a, I can do it and a confidence. But sometimes, when you're in the break room and you're outside of what you feel is happening in the boardroom, sometimes you don't have the confidence to say, listen, you have the same skills and abilities, and you might have more grit than those who may have had things handed to them. And so really that's, I want everybody to buy it, but that really is my audience I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to every single person who's clocking in every day and have a dream that they want to accomplish. Like I'm talking to you. Let's
Yep.
let's talk about how do we get your dream accomplished?
Mm. Well said. Well, your book has got multiple phases, and the first phase is prepare. Why is preparation the most overlooked part of a career transition?
Yeah. So from in my book, that phase really is talking about where I was talking about that mental shift. Sometimes we jump into action before we really have transformed our mind to set ourselves up for what's next. And I definitely think something like shifting into, even if you're doing a side hustle, but if you really are shifting from having a full-time job to entrepreneurship, that is a shift that could shake the core of who you are. If you have a family, that could shape, financially. Like there's just a lot you have to think through. And so really the preparation phase in my book is really talking about how do you change your mind from thinking like an employee to a CEO, because
Mm.
that really is what you're doing. How do you think about, hey, do I want a side hustle, meaning, I really want to
Yeah.
keep this income and have something on the side, or do I want to start up? Do I want to set myself up where I can fully lead? And so really that preparation phase is saying, hey, what are the things that we need to do? One, to even get you to the place where you're comfortable, because this is scary. So you got to even get yourself to the place where you're like, I'm going to do this. And then after that, how do you mentally prepare yourselves for what's next? Because
Mm.
this is not child's play. You have to be ready for a journey that is like
Correct.
none other.
Correct. And based on all the work that you've done with so many people, how much money should someone realistically have saved before making a major career move? Do you have any ballpark or thumb rules?
Yeah, I don't have a specific number. And to be honest with you, it really is contingent upon your life.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
book talks about is how you determine what that looks like for you.
Correct.
So there are some people who their comfort level, it requires more, meaning they need 6 months to a year of padding where they feel really comfortable for their life. There are some people who are willing to sacrifice more. There are some who are like, listen, I need my life to stay exactly the same as I transition. And so they're going to need more. There are some who have families
Yeah.
and have other responsibilities. And so really what my book does, it doesn't tell you a figure. It gives you kind of a range of what probably should work, but really it walks you through how do you determine for yourself
Mm.
what is that number for you. And we talk about these different kind of terms of, kind of runway, your freedom number, and really walk through. It's one of the reasons why I really think my book is good for anyone, because it's not just this motivational, you can do it. We're getting in there and we're getting the work done. My goal is by the time you finish Smart Quit, like I've set you up with the tools where you feel equipped that you can do this. Like you have set a plan, and it may be 6 months for some people. Some people, it may be 6 years,
Yeah.
but at least you are intentional and you see a path forward for where you're going.
Mm, very interesting. Your next phase is position. What does positioning mean in practical terms for someone working in a regular job?
Yeah, so this is now, so now you have this mindset, you kind of wrapped your mind around, you know, whether or not it's going to be a side hustle or now whether or not you actually want to do a shift. And so now you have said, okay, what are the things in my job now that probably would help me in terms of setting me up? So let's say your job has a program where it reimburses you for education expenses. Why would you leave and then goes to school if you can actually, work and have
Correct.
your job pay for it? And so the positioning now is that, okay, let's have our strategy around, are there certifications that you want to do? Do you need to pivot to a different department? Should you be being mentored by someone? Is there a certain client that you should try to get? And so now you are positioning yourselves, is what I call the real world MBA within your current role for what you have next. And so we talk about these relationships, kind of
Mm,
network to network, I talk about. And then we talk about the skills, what are the skills that you should be developing? And then really, what are the systems? What has your job already done well? And what are they not doing well that you want to make sure to make note not to do,
mm,
that you can learn that you don't have to pay for on your own because they've already paid the cost for
sure.
it, that you can take with you for the future. And so
Mm,
that's really that. You're positioning yourself well before it's time for you to make that jump.
well explained. Thank you. Tell me, what role does personal branding play in making a successful transition?
Well, you are like, it's you. And so it depends on so there are businesses that are services versus product. So I think learning that if you are service related, meaning something that you have that you're going to position yourself to deliver a service, your branding is going to be very important. But your reputation and who
Mm,
you are and how you represent yourself, that is important to how you will be successful at your next level. And so definitely a part of that is who you are. How do you represent yourself? What are you going to be known for? When someone hears your name, what is being said in the rooms that you are not in? Because that
mm,
really is where success happens. It's really when people are talking about you and when people are really vouching for you when you're not even present. And so that's really when we're talking about like that personal brand. That is that reputation and how you are setting yourself up for success. Because you think about people's brand, a brand is there even when they're not there. It even, someone can even die and their brand, look at the Disney brand, that's gonna live for eons and eons. And so that's really what's talking about. What is that reputation and that long standing, long living kind of uh, version of you that you are setting up for yourself as you are positioning yourself for what's next.
amazing. Your next phase is what you define as the pivot phase. And as I was reading more, it sounded almost like the point where fear becomes real.
Yeah,
How do
yeah,
people know when it's actually time to make the move or to actually pivot?
yeah. So, in true transparency, I don't think you do know. And true transparency of my own pivot, I thought I knew and I thought I had the perfect, relationship and idea of how it was going to happen, and it went exactly opposite of that. But the idea is that if you've done all the work that you set yourself up for, you will be prepared, where even it's going to be scary because change is fearful and this is new, and you really are opening yourself up in a place where you've been so comfortable, and this will be discomfort. But I believe once you have, you've set yourself up and you said, this is the runway. Okay, this is I have the product or I have the service. I've tested it. I know there's a market for it. Like you've done all the things where it seems like, okay, like I say the first dollar in your business is the hardest dollar to make.
Yeah.
Somebody is willing to pay you for whatever you are trying to sell. Okay, you've done that. then at some point you do have to, the last phrase in my book is just move. At
Mm,
some point you have to
mm,
move, because being paralyzed really is, the leads to most people failure. As long as you're doing something, at least you're moving the ball forward. And so that's really the key here. It's saying, okay, so now it's time. We've done all the things. We know how to leave well. Now we have to actually pivot. It's time to take that leap. And I think also, Ash, failure is not failure. And I think when you can wrap your head around that, it frees you to be able to take the risks necessary for success.
mm.
Because with risk comes reward. And if you're not willing to take a risk, you also, can't reap the reward. So it's the fear of failure that some people have that stop them from wanting to say, okay, it's time, it's time. Because you're like, I might fail. Yes. Actually, yes, you may fail. And actually, when you look at successful entrepreneurs, they had a lot of failures before their success.
Mm.
But you can't get to your success
Correct.
unless you're willing to open yourself up to all these failures. So that's the answer. So you will know once you've done the work, which is why you even look at my book. I want to say 2/3 or 3/4 of my book is really talking about the prepare and positioning, because that really is the work that
Mm.
sets you up well for the pivot. And then at some point, you just got to take the leap and say, all right, I've done the work. We got to get in there and get grinding and just do it. And that's really what, even with me, I thought I had done it well. I think I could have done it better. But after I jumped in there, I had the determination that I was going to make it. And
Correct.
so you just got to do it.
Correct. Absolutely. And the last phase is profit.
Yeah.
When people hear profit, they usually think about money.
Yeah.
And yet you believe there are other forms of profit that entrepreneurs should be pursuing. What are these?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let me caveat, you want to make money. So I don't.
Absolutely.
We all want to make money. So I don't want to.
Absolutely.
This is
Yes.
this is not this is not replacing the money. However, you need to know that there is an exchange for everything.
Mm.
There was a one of my clients one time. They wanted to hire me, and they told me, they were like, "Name your number. We will pay you anything. Name your number." And I was like, I do not have a number, because there was an hour and a half commute to and from the workplace. And I knew they worked 12-hour days.
Mm.
They're literally, I'm telling you, I know this sounds crazy. There probably was a number, but there was not a number that would reasonably, would have been.
Yeah.
There was not a number, because at some point there are other currencies other than just cash
Yeah.
there is a quality of life. There is, because where are you going to spend this money if you don't have free time? There is a mindset in terms of who you want to work with.
Mm.
There is, like I told you about, I at this point in my life, I want to be working in where I feel purposeful. I don't want to be doing things that I don't feel that I'm built for.
Correct.
There was a time in my life I was willing to do that because I needed to develop, but I don't want to do that right now.
Mm.
And so part of the profit stage is understanding what that looks like for you. Because a lot of times what I feel, people are determining their success or failure off of what that looks like for someone else.
Mm.
And everybody want to say, oh, I want to be a millionaire, billionaire, da, da. Do you know what that person is really giving up? And I really think people should really look at their own lane and do an inventory of
Mm.
what success look like for them, and be able to really shape that so they understand, so they can develop and build a business around that.
Yeah.
And what I really think is, sometimes we do the opposite. We end up going running, and then we find ourselves in a place of discontentment because we've done all the things, and then we're in our business, and we're working 80 hours, and we're like, how did I find myself here? Versus, had we started on the front end and kind of said, hey, this is the design that I would like my life to live like,
Mm.
we would have done a better job on the front end of designing our business in that way. And
Mm.
listen, that may be a $2 million business versus a $200 million business, but I bet you'll be happier. I know that sounds crazy, but money, and I think we know that, but money is not the end all of happiness. And
Absolutely.
sometimes it brings the opposite. And so that's really what I'm talking about. So profit, yes, we want profitable businesses, but you need to take a step further and say, okay, what is it beyond just money that's going to really make me feel fulfilled? Going back to that fulfillment word,
Yeah,
because you will look successful once again, and you will feel empty like none other, and that's really
absolutely.
what we're trying to stop from
Great
happening.
response. Great response. Drea, my last question for you.
Yeah,
Your mission is to help 1 million people quit smart,
yeah,
build bold, and live free.
yeah.
What does living free actually mean to you?
Yeah, it is designing your ideal life and being able to live daily in it. And
Mm,
like I said, my freedom life looks different than your freedom life, Ash, to live, different than my neighbors and my families. And so, one, helping people define, what does freedom look like to you? And then let's get to moving and get it
mm,
going. Because as I said, I truly believe people do not understand how much we think that, oh, the economy is standing in my way of something, or, oh, my job is stopping me from being able to be promoted, or, I came from a family that didn't really, wasn't really educated. There is nothing, if you put your mind to it, there is nothing that you cannot accomplish. And so my goal is to get everyone excited about, what is it that you want to do? What is it that excites you? What is it that makes you feel a lot like, Ash, sometimes I can't sleep because of how excited I am about what I get to do. And I want other people to feel the joy and the freedom that I feel, and help them find their way there. And I want to teach others how to help people find their way there. And
mm.
that's how I truly feel like I can get to
Yeah,
1 million, by training people to, get there themselves, and train others how to help people. And in that way, help people build businesses around there. That's my ultimate goal.
absolutely. And on that note, Drea, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this one has been with you. Thank you for talking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for talking to me about your book, Smart Quit, Cash In, Clock Out. I just love the 4 phases, which is prepare, position, pivot, and profit. And I think my viewers, and there's the book, I'm sure my viewers and listeners will take away a lot of very interesting thoughts and points from my conversation with you. Thank you for
Thank you so
speaking to
much
me
for
and good
having
luck.
me. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.